My life just literally got crazy.
Join Crazy8s if you don't want to sleep for 6 months.
When you fall asleep, you're still directing because it's been 8 days and you don't get sleep anymore. And now you want to reposition the figments of your imagination.
Because it's crazy!
You want to do something that is very hard. 8 days to make a film, totally doable. You're not gonna lose your sleep. You're not gonna lose your health. You only have good things to win from this, so try it. Yeah, pretty cool.
My name is Ava Maria Safai. The name of my film is called Zip, and Zip follows Melody, a 16-year-old singer-songwriter who wants to sing at her school talent show, but her dreams are crushed when her father decides to zip her mouth shut. Zip is a really special project because although it's based in fantasy and horror and all these theatrical elements, it's based and rooted in something very real and something that's happening right now. For several years, the Iranian people have been silenced. They're not allowed to play chess. They're not allowed to write music. You can't hold hands in public. Zip highlights these different things about the Iranian Revolution that people don't know, things that go beyond the mandatory hijab. And the big theme that keeps coming up in this movie is that women don't have access to their voice, specifically Melody being 16 and a woman. She is only allowed to speak if her father lets her. In Zip, we had the most amazing prosthetic in the world. It is a functional zipper that opens and closes, created by our SFX lead, Andy Lee. Andy created something that's never been done before, and that is amazing. What really stood out to me was our lead actress, Galara, being only 16 years old. We were talking a lot about screams of pain versus screams for her father. So when does it hurt to pull at the zipper, and when is she calling for help to remove the zipper? Galara was so great about getting right in tune with her emotions almost immediately, and watching her was fun.
My name is Gabriel Souza Nunes. I am the co-writer and director for Passiflora, a queer tropical love story. It is a film inspired in the folklore surrounding the passion fruit. In some communities in the north and northeast of Brazil, people believe that after eating a passion fruit, you fall in love with the first person you see. So yeah, this whole story of a queer man coming to terms with his own sexuality through magical realism. The main core theme of Passiflora is self-acceptance. The film is very inspired in my own queer journey. I wanted to make a film that little Gabriel wanted to watch and needed to watch years ago. I was a theater kid, I did a lot of improv back home. I really wanted to work with dancers and background performers and actual choreography. The dance sequences, they are really a cathartic visual experience to represent emotions and emotional journeys. And we had close to 40 dancers on set at the same time, which was my first time working with dancers, my first time working with background performers, my first time working with choreographers. So a lot of firsts. That scene was very stressful, but at the end, I'm super proud of that scene. I think it's the most beautiful scene in the entire film.
My name is Jessica Doucet. I'm the writer-director of Hallmark, which is a satirical horror following an ex-Hallmark protagonist who must save her happy ending. I created Hallmark just because I'd worked on Hallmark movies over and over and over again. It was always the same story, like the same idea, like the same underlying messages of a white picket fence being the only way to true happiness. And I just kind of wanted to do satire about it. We shot in Dairyland, an old dairy factory that's now only used by the film industry. It's kind of playing on Hallmark being a little bit of a factory. I wanted to set my film in a factory and just dressed up of Christmas. To me, this project is meant to kind of take the underlying themes and make them overlying and make them horrifying. It's kind of all about the hard road versus the easy road, and about the unknown versus the known. I made a very surreal film. It did require building some set pieces that had to be seen as real at first and then artificial later on. But yeah, I'd say the art was kind of the most challenging aspect, and they pulled it off.
My name is Rukiya Bernard, and my film is called Meditation for Black Women. It's an interwoven story of 4 seemingly disconnected women meditating on race and identity. And when they come to a truth in their meditation, it sets off a mystical event. Each of the 4 characters are a slice of me. Meditation for Black Women came out of a space of feeling stuck, feeling like the world didn't understand me, didn't understand Black people, didn't understand Black women in particular. And I wanted to just give everyone a moment of pause to think about the racial reckoning that happened a couple years ago. Talk about it, or I guess watch about it, and then breathe, because we're all here. We're all still surviving. So we were lucky enough to shoot at Bridge Studios, and it was huge and massive and really important that we had that amount of space, because one of the set pieces that the film keeps on coming back to is what I call the Black meditation space. It's kind of a reflection of what's going on in the character's mind, a kind of void of thought and expression that's surreal.
My name is Helen Liu. I'm the director of High-End Dining. My story is about an elite-level chef who literally puts her heart into her craft. The reason I want to make this film is because when I read the script, I just felt like there's no way I'm not making it. I have a strong connection to the protagonist, Eloise. I feel like how she feels about her craft, like her food, is how I feel about film.
My name is Jordan Symes, and I'm the writer for High-End Dining. So the seed of the idea came from, I had read this food review that had gone viral, and it was this very scathing review on this Michelin-starred restaurant. After reading that, I knew that would be a great idea to write a horror film set in the culinary world, because there's such an obvious dynamic of these opposing forces of a chef and a critic. For me, it was very much about vulnerability and the relationship between art, criticism, and sacrifice, and where the line is in any particular craft.
Our location is a little bit tricky. Our shooting days were the weekends, and those are really difficult dates to get. And because of our limited budget, luckily we found a restaurant that was not yet open, and then we got to shoot there for 3 days straight. It worked out perfectly. It suited our aesthetics, and then actually, the chef who works there used to be a Michelin-star chef as well. So we're like, oh, there are film gods out there and they're looking after us.
My name is Brenna Goodwin-McCabe. I'm the writer and director of I Can't Go On. The film is a short horror, an existential horror about a young woman named Cassandra and the body she discovers in her apartment elevator, left to fester under the heels of her unconcerned neighbors. And to me, the body became a metaphor for the building itself, for the way that Vancouver's housing crisis is being dealt with, the way any sort of issue, political, emotional, physical, is ignored or let go of because it is inconvenient. We were lucky enough to get into the Vancouver Film School and use a studio there. Everything that you see in the film, other than our stairway, was built in a matter of days. Horror is kind of my go-to medium. But to me, horror is this very political genre, and I think if you go decade by decade, you can kind of chart the cultural anxieties and landscape that are happening. I think we had this amazing opportunity to do something kind of weird with this story. It's not really a conventional horror. There are no jump scares. So we really got to play around with the style of the film. We really wanted to emphasize a lot of shades of rot in our color palette, a lot of greens, reds, yellows, and Crazy8s essentially enabled us to play around with this space.
On this Crazy8s project, It was my first time working with a dolly. I've never worked with a dolly as a director before, and that was like such an exciting thing for me. And to have access to vintage lenses from RAW and to like the best possible lighting equipment and sky panels from Whites, to get free sound equipment from Fusion Cine, like there were so many people that came together in making this movie. A lot of people will be part of a Crazy8s because they know the legacy of Crazy8s.
It was unusual to hear about union crew being so willing to work on something that was volunteer.
Seeing some young folks getting their first experience on set really brings the whole, like, why am I doing this back into your mind. And once you see the more experienced people, when they can do things very quickly and like right away, you can say like, oh, so this is where I want to go. In a way, it's a timeline where you see, oh, I used to be this person, I'm trying to be that one now. And this mix is really refreshing.
The journey of Crazy8s is a beautiful one. It feels like for every 2 steps forward you take one back. So eventually you'll get there, but you'll have your hurdles. But when I look back on it, I feel like that's what made the experience so special.
The reason I did Crazy8s was because my last film was 4 years ago and I needed a little push. And I think Crazy8s, it's the perfect push for me.
Having Crazy8s on my back now is like, hey, yeah, I'm actually a filmmaker, sorry, yeah.
When you see the final product, it's a terrifying experience. But at the same time, watching it, it did move me to tears because there are so many talented people involved with this. I'm never going to forget. It's just something that you'll always carry with you.
But at the end of the Crazy, you will end up with a film. A really good film, and one that you can be proud of.